Alright folks, let's admit it. Reading poetry is hard. Sometimes it seems like the multiple ideas that are being explored in any given poem are way too complicated. They often even come off as so disparate that the poem doesn't even make any sense. And yet, there are other times a poem can seem way too concrete, too simple, but you just know there has to be some complexity in there somewhere. So today, I'm going to begin guiding you on your poetry journey, specifically as you trek through the process of writing your poetry essay on your AP Lit exam. Right now, though, I want to take a quick moment and give a shout out to Ms. Franklin and her students at PK Young in Florida. I hope all of you Blue Waves honestly cherish your instruction, knowing that you have one of the best lit teachers in the country guiding you as you study. It was also super awesome to meet Ms. Franklin when I was in California just last month. Okay, I want to take you back to a time, the early 19th century to be exact, when Percy Bysshe Shelley and Horace Smith agreed to write sonnets about some ancient Egyptian ruins. I've created some prompts for both of these sonnets, but we're going to look at the first prompt because that's going to be the one that I'm going to trace throughout my poetry series. Of course, you can access these prompts right down in the description. Now, before you ever read the poem on your lit exam, you want to actually read the prompt effectively. You may think you know how to read the prompt because you know what the words say, but if you really know how to read the prompt, you can typically leverage it to help you read the poem significantly more effectively. So there are 4 steps to reading the prompt well, and you can actually follow these steps for each one of your prompts on your AP Lit exam. So you can make sure to own the reading of the poems and the excerpts that you're instructed to work with on test day. And because of this, you can slay each one of your essays as long as you work with the prompt correctly. Just make sure to complete all of these tasks before you read the poem in front of you. So let's start with step 1. The first thing you want to do when you break down a prompt is to identify what is called the tagline. Tag just stands for title, author, and genre. In the case of the prompt that we're working with, we want to identify Percy Shelley, Ozymandias, and sonnet. Doing so will fulfill this first step. Now, quick note here. Sometimes it may say poem in a prompt, but you may know that the particular poem is a specific type of poem. And if you know the more precise type of poem that is on the page, show your smarts and label that piece more accurately. Notice the poem has 14 lines, then call it a sonnet. See that the poem is 19 lines made up of 5 tercets and a quatrain? Well, that's a villanelle. Is the poem made of rhyming quatrains and tell a dramatic or emotional story? Sweet, it's a ballad. You don't have to know poetic forms for exam day, but it certainly won't hurt if you do. And that's all you need to do for step 1. So let's actually move to step 2. Step 2 of breaking down a prompt is looking for any background information in the prompt that can help you understand why the poem was created or what's happening in the poem itself. So in the case of this particular prompt, we'd want to identify information like the speaker in the poem meets a traveler that recounts his observations. Now this is an important detail because it sets up a framed narrative. That's a story within a story. We want to note that the speaker recounts the traveler's observations towards some ancient ruins. And based on the prompt, we can know that this particular poem does explore the ideas of power, pride, and the passing of time. All of this initial information should let us comprehend the poem much better because we not only know the elements of the narrative, but also the ideas that the poem is actually exploring. So now let's move on to step 3, which is also super easy. We need to find what we are commanded to do by the prompt, and the reason why this is so easy is because the command element of the prompt always starts with the word analyze or the word analyzes. So once you find that word, just underline from that word until the end of the sentence that it's in. Or if you're filling in an organizer like I am, you can copy down the command word for word. Analyzes all the way through the end of the sentence. Now I have to give you a warning. You may think that this seems like a waste of time, but I promise you it's not. Here's why. First, focusing on the word analyze reminds you that you have to actually analyze as you write. It doesn't ask you to summarize or describe or explain or paraphrase. So if you know what analysis actually means and requires, and focus on this, you'll be in better shape as you write your paper. And if you don't know what analysis is, well, I'm going to tell you all of its 3 steps right now because it will help you when you write your body paragraphs later. Analysis has 3 phases: the identification phase, the breakdown phase, and the explanation phase. This is important for you to know because you can actually structure your body paragraphs in this way. Your topic sentence is supposed to identify what the author is doing and why the author is doing it. Your evidence that comes after your topic sentence is going to break down where the author is doing specifically what you said the author is doing and where it's seen in the text. text. And your commentary is going to explain how the evidence actually conveys the why you identified in your topic sentence. In my next poetry videos, you'll see how all of this can be easily put together and how every body paragraph actually goes through the steps of analysis every time. Now, I do have a second point here. Finding the command allows you to create a question that will not only help you conquer the reading of the poem, but also conquer writing the essay. Creating this question, which I like to call the conquer question, is the final step and most important step in the whole breakdown process because it will tell you exactly what you need to know when you're done reading the poem. And actually generating this question is what we call step 4 in this process. To generate a conquer question, you need to go into the command that you just recorded and search for an infinitive that's there. An infinitive is just the word to followed by a verb. In the case of the prompt that we're working with, the infinitive is to explore. Once you find the infinitive, you want to look at the words only to the right of it and ask yourself, what can't I know until I read the poem? This question that you ask must start with the word what. And this is because what questions are much easier to answer than why questions or how questions. We're trying to simplify the poetry reading process, so we're going to ask the simplest question in order to do that. Also remember, you don't want to ask what literary or poetic elements and techniques am I looking for, because those phrases are to the left of the infinitive.
To the left, to the left.
We only want to focus on what is to the right of the infinitive for language. So if I were to do this correctly, I want to ask, what can't I know from the word explore all the way to time? Well, let's see. Do I know that Shelley is trying to explore something because it says so in the prompt?
Yeah, why?
The language is right there. Do I know Shelley is exploring the ideas of power, pride, and the passing of time?
Yeah, why?
It also says it right in the prompt. Do I know what the complex relationship is between power, pride, and the passing of time?
No go.
Not yet. So this sets me up to know that when I'm done reading the poem that's about to follow, I need to be able to answer this question. What is the complex relationship between power, pride, and the passing of time? If I can answer that, even in the slightest sense, I'm going to be able to write this essay with significant ease. So great, you know how to break down a prompt, and you know how to generate a conquer question to help you read. But that doesn't mean you know how to translate all of this into your writing. But don't worry, because I've got you covered. To learn how to write your essays, all you need to do is begin by checking out this video right here. Already? Oh, good grief, these trucks are loud. Nope, it's gotta say prompt. Is the poem made of rhyming In the case of the prompt that we're